Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing out there tonight? Ooh, mic's a little hot. Turn down the mic a little bit. There you go. You guys, thank you so damn much for being here. Welcome to Lue Reviews, the destination for critical thinking in the realm of the unexplained. I am your host, Luis Jimenez. Please do not forget to smash that like, share, and subscribe button. Goes a very long way, but more importantly, even ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime we do go live or have breaking news, which could be anytime outside of Monday and Friday from 3 to 5. So if you're here for the first time, welcome. Blizzard has become a member. We have 2 new members today. That's amazing. Incredible. Blizzard here has been a member for 8 months in a row. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And Blaster X is a brand new member. Oh my. Thank you so much, you guys, for subscribing and becoming members to Lue Reviews. And we also got District Creations, who has subscribed to the show. Was asking me earlier how the buffet was. Always crowded. Any good buffet is always crowded. And yeah, so that's all the love there, you guys. Hello to everyone in the chat who's here. My normal crew. Simon Fly, Fifi Barboa, Blizzard, of course. Wolf, Wolf. Thanks for being here. Sheldon Lattimore, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Wait, zero evidence. Where are the 40 first-hand witnesses? Great question. We're going to be getting into it a little bit. Did I say hello to UFO Cholo? I think I did. Art and Paranormal, thank you for being here, my lady. Appreciate it. Wise Monkey, thank you for being here. And then we got a new member, an old member here. Says Lou with a donation. Thank you very much for the donation. And let me also move this up a little bit so we can see it. There we go. I love the real Lou more than effing Lou. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the love. All right, you guys, let's get started with the show because we got some stuff to talk about today. We're going to be diving into the realm, or excuse me, no, that's not it. That's not today's show. That was another day's show. That was a totally different show. Today, we're going to be diving into Dave Grusch's 294 days with zero evidence regarding the UFO reversal engineering program. Eric Burlison, Representative Congressman Eric Burlison, praises Steve Greenstreet's AATIP, AWSAP, and AARO reporting, which is very interesting, and also grants him an interview in this conversation. He also says that he does not trust Lue Elizondo. Surprise, surprise. So we're going to play that clip. And then TMZ also released a clip of Ryan Graves not wanting to be interviewed in front of the mummies at that Mexican congressional hearing or whatever that mess was. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about Annie Jacobs in her interview with Lex Fridman about Roswell and the deception campaigns executed by intelligence communities. So that's what we're going to try and get through all of today. Let me go ahead and do this real quick. Gotta move this over here to make sure we don't forget anything today. There we go. All right. Woo. Nig, just subscribed. Thank you so much for the subscription. I truly appreciate it. Let me see here. Ooh, okay. And then let me go here. All right. And let me kill the music. Excellent. All right, cool. Go ahead and put that there. All right. And then let's also switch to our Lue Reviews studio cam. Such a special studio cam. So unique. You've never seen anything like this anywhere on any other channel ever. All right. What do we want to talk about first? Okay, I definitely want to mention this. I know I kind of lightly mentioned this earlier, but the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is an official Department of Defense handle, okay, DOD_AARO, and they joined in July of 2022, and they have tweeted, let's see, since that account opened, this account has tweeted twice. Both times on July 20th. And then it did not say or tweet a thing until March 8th of this year. We read that tweet from earlier, but since then, it's tweeted 3 other things. And I find this interesting. All of a sudden, this account has come to life. And that's encouraging because that tells me that the office is created. It has established itself. It's establishing protocol. That's done. It's got people in offices that handle social media, that handle the reports, that handle the lab works, whatever. The point is that it is an organization now, as opposed to a brand new thing that was just on paper. Now it is a living and breathing independent office. And that, again, encouraging. And it's also encouraging that this office is going to get, it seems like, some kind of rotation of leadership, which I think is a good thing. You know, if they stay there 2, 3 to 5 years, somewhere in that range, and then they pass the baton on to new research teams or a new research leader. Therefore, you know, everyone can be well assured that the research or the data that's coming out of this office is at the very least being unbiased, you know, like the ability to pass that sort of these studies and these experiments onto another person and being able to do that seamlessly. So just interesting. But the latest tweet that it has put out was 2 hours ago. It says, by law, AARO may receive any UAP related information at all levels of classification, regardless of the special access requirements or whether it originated within DoD, the intelligence community, or any other United States government department or agency. Read on this here. Then links to an article. Or not an article, but a PDF from the Office of Secretary of Defense. And it basically says that. So let's read it, because this is important. Like, again, because this bucks up against all of the conspiracy theorists and all of the propaganda pushers specifically like Matt Ford and that UFO podcast and Vinny Adams and the UK guy, that whole UK web of propaganda. And then you've got the US side of it. And that seems to be like, you know, the Matt Fords. And now we've got this new vetted guy coming into the picture. I don't know much about him, but it's like they always go in with, hey, man, I'm just curious. And again, like that, hey, man, I'm just curious. They get this, they get a killer spike in views and popularity. And it's like, then their unbiased sort of, I'm just here to listen, definitely starts skewing and leaning towards other ways. Blizzard with a massive donation here. Thank you so damn much. $20, man, for buying the Elizondo book, which is on the way, which, by the way, oh gosh, man, now I'm just looking at the, man, who's doing this? So stupid. All right. If I have any mods in the chat, you know what to do with that guy. But let me go ahead and just block him from the chat. Oh, man. Let's see here. Hide user on this channel. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I just noticed that. And yeah, it threw me off with a donation and then just started putting the rest of the NIG word. I thought that was just his handle there, but obviously that's not what it is. Let me also do this. Yeah, clearly there are people out there that hate what we're saying. And for good reason, because that means that their belief systems are being challenged to a point where they're doing shit like this, which is like, okay, if that's what we're going to do, if that's the tactics that you're going to sort of rely on, all right. I mean, it doesn't win you. It doesn't win you anything other than just wasting my time, which I guess for you is awesome. Okay. let me see here. I gotta update this. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So this way the show stays the show. Gotta update the chat here. See, Alien Scientist is in the house. Thanks for being here, bud. All right. There we go. Let's see here. Yoshi. Right. There we go. All right, there we go. What's up, dude? Okay, cool. You are welcome, Arden. Maybe I should, at some point, I'm going to make you a mod there, Arden, if you'd like to be one. So that way, if stuff like that happens, you guys can just kick them out immediately. All right, let's get back to this, shall we? I'll put it here in the middle for you guys so you guys can see it with me, and I'll also zoom in on it. There we go. All right. So Office of the Secretary of Defense, March 8th, 2023. And the subject is authorization to provide information to personnel regarding all domain AARO office under the Secretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. References Section 1673 of the Defense National Authorization Act, fiscal year 2023. Representatives of the AARO office are authorized to speak to persons and or conduct interviews of persons that currently have or previously had access to sensitive U.S. government information, activities, and or materials. Okay, so there you go. The AARO office has and is authorized to speak to anyone within those, sensitive U.S. government information, activities, or materials that has access to those things. The second thing here is individuals with current or previous access to UAP-related information, which is subject to a United States government non-disclosure agreement, are authorized, you have permission here, okay, is what they're saying, you are authorized to provide this otherwise protected information to AARO representatives. So if you have an NDA, Dave Grusch, Lue Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, Sean Cahill, whoever out there with the NDA who can't talk to anybody, well, now you can go to AARO and talk to them. And or if you don't trust AARO, you can go straight to your lawmaker and you are protected under law if you are revealing that kind of sensitive information that you couldn't once before do because of an NDA. So now that excuse is out the window. So anyone who's under NDA can now go report it. AARO personnel are authorized to receive this information pursuant to Section 1673 of the NDAA for fiscal year 23. The provision of UAP-related information, which is subject to NDA to AARO personnel, constitutes an authorized disclosure if the information is provided and received for the limited purpose of conducting AARO's assigned mission as specified in 1683 of the NDAA for 2022, as amended by 6802 of the 2023 NDAA. And number 3, AARO representatives will conduct any conversation, interview, or disclosure of USG sensitive information by an individual only with appropriate secure spaces and handled in accordance with the regulations applicable to the alleged classification level of the potentially sensitive information discussed. If the individual providing the information indicates that he or she believes the information is to be shared is classified, top secret, special access required, the AARO office representatives will handle the information in accordance with such a level at intake and until the classification can be determined. So basically, if you are working on one of those legacy reverse engineering programs, and there's more than one of you, there has to be, all of you can go to the AARO office at once or to a lawmaker. I'd recommend Gillibrand if she's in your state, preferably, or you could take it to Marco Rubio if you wanted to. I don't know if I'd go to him. Or again, you could just go straight to DC, go to the Department of Defense, and report it to the scientists at AARO. And again, like that information, let's say, even if you think you're working on a reverse engineering program and you report this to AARO, I'm sure they will let you know, hey, it's not alien. You're working on something that belongs to something that has 1,500 other parts to it. And you're one of the lines in the assembly, and you were not allowed to know about the other parts of the assembly. I'm sure there might be a demotion maybe in that person's future, like how they could not know that that's the difference between alien technology and something top secret that's human made. I don't know. That's such a big leap to make as an intelligence official. And again, I'm not just making that up. That's something that Sean Kirkpatrick said. Like, we have intelligence officials and agents and officers who believe aliens have crashed here. We have recovered materials, and we are currently and actively reverse engineering it. And there's zero evidence of that whatsoever. Man, it's... oh boy. Need a mod now. Okay, what is happening? Is it Thomas Fessler? Is that who's here? Good Lord, Arden, I'm gonna make you a mod right now. Add as moderator. Man, okay, there you go. Arden, you are now moderator, my lady. Thank you for the cap. Sorry, I'm so focused on what's happening here. Look at this. You spread Thomas Fessler. You spread nonsense every chance you get, and you get addicted to the topic. Pal, why don't you come on the show? I'll give you a link right now. I'm gonna put a link right now in the chat. If you'd like to come on on this show and express your feelings, and let's have a debate with your shit picking up ass, I'd love to. I'd love to have you in here, Thomas. I'd love to ask you questions. Holy cow, we've got Thomas Fessler here. The almighty, powerful Thomas Fessler. Oh boy, so exciting. So exciting. All right, let's see here. Arden, if you want, you can let him speak in the chat. But if he's just going to keep reposting, then you can just go ahead and delete it as it comes in. That's just obnoxious. But it's funny, what's great about my show is Thomas can actually come here and comment on this without subscribing. Whereas with his show, every single person in his chat is a mod, and you have to be subscribed to his shitty channel, which is just awful. And it's no wonder you've been stuck at less than 7,000 subs for the last, I don't know, forever. All right, let's see here. Let's go ahead and put this in the chat. So if Thomas Fessler would like to come on the show, he's more than welcome. And I'll go ahead and put that out there for everyone to, well, not everyone, it's just really for Thomas. It's an only invite for him only. And I've pinned it and everything. So you've got some great big balls on you, do you, Thomas? Well, go ahead and click that link and let's see how big your balls are. Let's go ahead. Let's see it. Let's see how well you can defend your absolutely batshit crazy position. Go ahead, pal. The link's right there. Until you pop in, I'll go ahead on with the rest of my show. Arden, thank you so much for now being a mod. I appreciate it. It seems like everything's cleaned up. So let me go ahead and pop out my chat again. Again, apologies to my audience for me to stop and deal with this absolute bullshit. But hey, again, that means that if we've gotten under Thomas Fessler's skin, I haven't even mentioned him in months. There's no need to. He's the bottom of the barrel when it comes to intelligence and any sort of integrity. But okay, let's see here. Let's go ahead and put my chat over here. Put this here. All right, there's Arden. Brand new mod, Arden. Thank you for being here. All right, let's do it. Okay, so did I read number 4? This one will probably really piss off Fessler. Persons in contact or interviewed by AARO representatives are advised that they are to continue safeguarding classified and sensitive information in accordance with U.S. law and the terms of any applicable non-disclosure agreement. An individual's authorized disclosure of sensitive information to AARO's representative, as outlined in the memorandum, is no way impacts that individual's responsibility to protect and safeguard classified information from unauthorized disclosure. David W. Abba, great last name, Major General, United States Air Force, Director of the DoD Special Access Program. Boom. Nice. Let's see here. Office of Director of National Intelligence. This is interesting. Okay. Unclassified. So representatives of AARO are authorized to speak to persons conducted with interviews who previously had access to sensitive government information, activities, or materials. Is this the same thing? Just basically, this one's numbered? Yeah. Okay, cool. Basically the same. Okay, awesome. So there you go. So AARO is being a lot more transparent for maniacs like Thomas Fessler and his band of misfits. And they're freaking out. They don't know what to do with themselves. They have no clue whatsoever what to do with themselves. And it's hilarious. It's just like, yeah, that makes sense. These guys are absolute maniacs. And when evidence and facts are brought to the table, boy, oh boy, do they get very upset. All right. So, friendly reminder, and it's the title of the show. And I was just like, it keeps, like, these days keep racking up, and it's true. It's been 294 days since David Grusch first publicly made his claims. He has shown zero evidence for any of these claims so far. Just hearsay and trust me, bro stories. And I've interviewed the people who have had access to those programs' stories. He's made claims that people have been killed over these stories. He's made claims that him and his wife have been harassed over these stories. And again, zero evidence. What he says that the AARO office ignored his interview requests. And when people ask him for the evidence of that, hey, show us the emails where you requested to be interviewed. Will not provide the emails. He gets his little guard dog Jeremy Corbell to come out and stand up for him publicly about this idea that he went to AARO and AARO ignored him. And then we've come to find out that he never even went. He never even approached Dr. Kirkpatrick, never sent him an email, never ignored all the requests from the AARO office because they knew about David Grusch. And when it was time to put the evidence on the table, David Grusch just didn't show up. Just didn't show up. Why? Like, if you have the truth, there should be no fear. There should be no fear in who you talk to, whether it's the Washington Post or, Jesse Michaels, 60 Minutes, or whoever interviews you. Like, it should be the same facts, same story. Here's the evidence. Here are the documents. Here are the programs. Here are the people who run them. Here's how it's funded. Here's the technology they're working on. None of that has been put on the table. 294 days. We're close to a year. A couple more months, and we'll be at a year. But this guy has shown zero evidence, and there's people outside of, a lawmaker's office, Schumer's office in New York City in 30-degree weather. There's 15 people there with signs, that says hero with this guy's picture on it. And it's just like, no, it's more like zero evidence. Club Blizzard, thank you so much again. Lou, brother, you and Cambion have 2 hosts stream after 300 days. We should. That would be fun. That's so funny. Okay, so this was probably one of the coolest moments, and I hope that this sets a precedent going forward for every single news outlet and actual journalist out there, like real journalists. This is a question that every single lawmaker that has publicly come out and either spoken about or inferred or defended or suggested that these UAP or UFOs could be coming here, they could be extraterrestrial, any sort of hint of that whatsoever. If you are a lawmaker that did that, this is the question that should be asked to you. And it was asked of Rep. Burlison in I think, just because I'm not a Patreon member of Ask a Poll, but I think this was like a private members only chat where people who are members could come in and ask the representative questions. And that's awesome. Like, to me, that's worth the Patreon membership if you get opportunities like that every once in a while. I think that's pretty cool, because now that opens the door for anyone to come in and ask some really killer questions of these lawmakers when it comes to these UFO reverse engineering programs. And so this is a question that I've been dying for journalists to ask, and Stephen Greenstreet gets the perfect opportunity in the Ask a Poll UAP discussion here, hosted by Matt Laszlo with Eric Burlison. And so let's listen to this exchange because it's really, really cool. Let me go ahead and turn up my audio here so you guys hear it. And here we go.
Floor is yours.
Hi there, Congressman. This is Steve Greenstreet with the New York Post. Can you hear me?
Hi, how are you? Yep.
Come through. What are you doing to make sure that you are not being purposely misled by some of these characters like Lue Elizondo, whose claims have been debunked?
Right. I don't believe hardly anything you can tell me. This is why I was pretty blunt at the beginning of all of this. I'm from Missouri. You're going to have to show me. So I do think it is. What I can say is that it has been validated to me that there is over compartmental.
All right, I know it's really low, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and just go back and play this. So I bumped up the volume here. Let me just bump it up a little more. There we go. All right, let's try this one more time.
That you are not being purposely misled by some of these characters like Lue Elizondo, whose claims have been debunked.
So how do you know you're not being purposefully misled by some of these people who have been debunked, like Lue Elizondo, some of these UFO whistleblowers?
Right. I don't believe hardly anything that they tell me.
I don't believe hardly anything that they tell me. That's the quote from the congressman. I don't believe that is directly to Lue Elizondo's name. I don't believe hardly anything they tell me. The thing with Eric Burlison is it's tricky because this is a guy also that has some very, very right-wing, very extreme religious beliefs, Christian beliefs. And raises money and participates in these organizations and events that at the surface are good-hearted in nature, but like these are not churches I don't think most people would want to be a part of. I take everything that Eric Burlison says with a grain of salt, but it is interesting that the guy that was referencing biblical text in UFOs has read Stephen Greenstreet's work and also has now granted him an interview in the next things that he says here. But let's listen to the rest of it. And again, I'll repeat what he says because I know the audio is really low. But I saw this clip. It was being passed around by another entity that didn't post any of the credit didn't tag any of the people that actually got this clip. So I took it upon myself to get that clip and tag the people that deserve to be tagged, because again, this is an amazing moment. So, you know, I tagged Ask a Poll, Eric Burlison, and Stephen Greenstreet. And yeah, let's listen to the rest of it.
This is why I was pretty blunt at the beginning of all of this. I'm from Missouri. You're going to have to show me. So
yeah, he did say that in the congressional hearing where, you know, like, I'm from the show me state of Missouri and I need to see it. And he was one of my favorite people that day at that congressional hearing with David Grusch. He was, to me, asking the best questions and the most rational questions. And yeah, so, but then, you know, juxtapose that to a few weeks after that, he's, you know, quoting biblical texts and talking about these things could be angels or demons. And it's like, come on, dude, like, stop. You know, like, he rolls the eyes at the idea of aliens, but is totally serious when it could be an angel or a demon or Jesus coming down. You know, like, that's why I say take this guy, you know, what this guy says with a grain of salt. But it is very interesting that, you know, he's sort of not done a 180, but he is defending Greenstreet here.
So I do think it is, what I can say is that it has been validated to me that there is over compartmentalization. It's been validated by the office.
So that is something that I think everyone can agree with. Yes, there is over compartmentalization within the United States intelligence communities. They're way over compartmentalized to a point where they cannot talk to each other. And if that's something that Grusch brought up within his complaint, that is urgent and credible. And I agree with that part of Grusch's complaint. And I agree with the congressman here on the idea that these intelligence communities a lot of times miss things because of the over compartmentalization of it. And they restrict from these communities working and talking with each other because it's like the dumbest things are overclassified. The silliest things that should not be classified, that should be open to the FBI, CIA, NSA, TSA, whichever organization is trying to get information about a certain thing that they're looking at. They should have access to that. And to have to wait sometimes months to get access to those things or something that shouldn't be classified in the first place could cause a major issue. Like, you can see if you're chasing somebody, you know, a terrorist or whatever, you know, a cell, or if you're doing intelligence work and time is of the essence. If you come across one of these programs that shouldn't be overclassified, it causes a ton of headaches. And so from that aspect, yes, David Grusch, it's credible and urgent. You know, it makes sense. But everything outside of that is not credible and urgent. And and there's no merit to it, more importantly.
So both offices of Inspector General that many of Grusch's claims, while they can't verify his claims about aliens, that many of his claims about the processes and the way in which information is not being conveyed to Congress has been validated. And that, to me, is enough to, as someone that is trying to do the due diligence of representing the taxpayers and taxpayer funds, I think I owe it to the American people to be responsible to follow through.
Thank you very much.
And that's not a bad answer. Like, look, this is a concern, and as a representative, I think that's something I should look into. I agree. If the intelligence community is not sharing the information that it should be sharing with Congress in a efficient and, you know, quick manner, like that's a problem. Or if they're hiding things, especially from Congress, that's a problem. And, you know, if there are special access programs that Congress is unaware about, that's a problem. But just because there are special access programs that Congress is unaware about does not mean those special access programs are alien. Just does not mean that whatsoever.
Well, and Congressman, one thing I'm learning.
Hey, please,
I was going to say
please reach out to my office as well, because I really enjoyed your article. I thought you were doing some good work there.
And coming from a guy where, Stephen Greenstreet has poked fun and has been very critical of the religious beliefs of Eric Burlison. So for Eric Burlison to turn around and be like, hey man, I enjoyed your article. Reach out to my office. Let's have a conversation. To me, speaks volumes. Whether I disagree with his religious beliefs or not, whether I align with him politically or not, I can respect the fact that the guy can go, yeah, you make a really good point about there being fraud, waste, and lies going on here. And yeah, I don't trust Lue Elizondo for shit. Like, I just don't trust him. And there are good reasons why you shouldn't trust him. And so again, like, this is an excellent question. And this is something that Rubio should answer and Gillibrand should definitely answer. And Gallego and Schumer. Like, are you afraid and are you aware of people like Lue Elizondo and scientists like Gary Nolan and pilots like Ryan Graves? Are you aware that all of them have connections to this failed program, AWSAP and AATIP, that wasted $22 million a couple decades ago, and now all of these same guys are rehashing this stuff and reselling it to you as lawmakers? Like, are you aware of that? And what are you doing to sort of combat that? I think it's a great question. It's a great question. Are they aware of AWSAP? Are they aware of AATIP? Are they aware of Bigelow? Are they aware of Travis Taylor? Are they aware of Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis and how all of these guys are connected to Lue Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and David Grusch? Like, those are really important questions. And every single lawmaker that pushes this stuff, again, should have to answer those questions. They really, 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 really should. So yeah, a great moment for, I don't want to call it ufology, but a great moment for rationality and sort of level-headed thinking. We'll get to this beautiful old man in a moment. Let's see here. What else did I want to talk about? It's funny. Thomas Fessler hasn't showed up. Weird. So weird how that guy hasn't showed up. I wonder if that was even the real Thomas Fessler. You think? I mean, I'm checking the lobby here. Nope, nobody's in there. Okay, just making sure. Just making sure. You know, it's funny. Mark Bell on Twitter. Man, that guy is obnoxious. Absolutely just bad argument, bad faith argument, guys. Just one of the worst out there. Okay. Oopsie. What did I do that for? I didn't want to do that. There we go. Playlists. All right. Okay. So we'll move on. Let's see here. Okay. So let's see. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, this was really interesting. Again, saw this clip by an account that I absolutely loathe. So I took the clip and made it my own. But it's not really mine or theirs. This Ryan Graves clip comes from TMZ. And again, this is a super, super low audio clip. So I apologize. I've tried to bump up the audio as much as I can. But I'll basically walk you through it if you can't hear it. But I'll go ahead and play and see what you guys think.
Okay. So you can do it somewhere else, you cannot do it. So you can do it somewhere else, you cannot do it.
Whatever you want.
Okay, yeah, let me do this. So this clip starts out with Ryan Graves at the Mexican congressional UFO presentation. It wasn't a hearing. And he's speaking to one of the organizers of the event. I can't remember what this guy's name is, but I'm pretty sure he is with Jaime Maussan's people. And the very first thing that is transcribed here that Ryan's saying to this guy, he's like, I don't want to do it in front of the bodies for the interview. So he's basically telling this guy, like, listen, I'll do any interview you want me to do, but I'm not going to do it in front of those fucking alien bodies. And you can tell, like, Brian is not happy. And what's hilarious is he was warned about this multiple times before he went there. But it's funny that this is coming out now. Again, this was put out by TMZ.
So you can do it somewhere else, or you cannot do it.
He's like, you can do it somewhere else, or you can not do it. Like, he's like basically telling this guy, like, look, I'm not doing it where you guys got it set up. And if you want my interview, we need to do it somewhere else. Period. Full stop. That's it.
Whatever you want.
Okay, so
You don't want it?
you want no? Okay,
He's like, whatever you want. He's like, you don't want it? He's like, no, I don't fucking want it. He's like,
You want
okay.
to do it with him just with him?
Just with him?
I can do it with all the media, but I don't want to do it in front of the bodies.
Okay.
I'll do it somewhere
I'll
else,
change
but
it.
I don't
Okay.
want to do
Just
it.
give me 1 second, please.
Yeah. He's like, okay, I'll change it. Yeah. He's like, I want to do the media. I want to do it, but I won't do it in front of those bodies. I'm not going to let the whole world make fun of me, because they already are. They're already jumping on my shit. Like, this was a live presentation. The bodies had already been presented live, and he was getting lit up on Twitter while this was going on live. So he's already very aware, like, yeah, I need to do these interviews. I came all this way. I want to get the word out about my organization, but I ain't doing it in front of those bodies. Why not, buddy? Why not? The body's embarrassing. Was that embarrassing, Ryan Graves? Being driven down all the way, flown down all the way to Mexico there, just to stand in front of fucking casts of animal parts and possibly dead children. Ouch. And then you're still willing to do the interviews. Like, that wasn't off-putting enough. Listen, I'll do the interviews, but I'm not going to do it in front of those bodies. For some reason, those bodies make my interviews less valuable. Man, oh man, oh man. Man, oh man. Just weak sauce, man. Total weak sauce. Total weak sauce. All right, let's get into this Annie Jacobsen thing, because this is really interesting. Okay, so I've got the link to this entire discussion in the link below. Now, weirdly enough, before I did a little dive, and I wouldn't say it's a deep dive, I'd say I'm in the shallow end on Annie Jacobsen here. Or Ann Jacobsen, I think. It's Annie. I was like, before I did that, I weirdly enough started watching Tom Clancy's shit, what the hell is it? Babe, what's the name of the show we were watching? Yeah. No, not the Shogun. The top of the one with Jim from The Office.
Oh, Jack Reacher.
No, not Jack Reacher. Jack Ryan, that's it. We were watching it last night. Jack Ryan. She said Jack Reacher. That show sucks. Okay, Jack Ryan. And I've always loved Tom Clancy novels. I've loved Tom Clancy movies. I mean, The Hunt for Red October is filmed by one of the best directors of all time, in John McTiernan. The thing about Tom Clancy novels and video games and shows and any content that he produces is that he's got some, for whatever reason, he's got some amazing connections within the intelligence communities. And sort of the word on the street, the sort of the secret sauce to what makes his stuff really great is that it's all based in real technologies, real situations, real scenarios. And it's the same thing with Jack Ryan. And what was funny is I watched a few episodes and then I just randomly started listening to this Annie Jacobsen interview. And I started looking, as I'm listening to the interview, I'm looking up stuff about her. And it turns out she's a teleplay writer on Tom Clancy's show, Jack Ryan, along with a couple of other shows that she was in line to produce. One in particular was an Area 51 show, and it was based off of her book, which I've got to read now. If the worst case, get an audio version of it. And listen to her Area 51 book here. But she goes into Area 51 in sort of the last chapter of her book, basically, which is sort of her big reveal as to what she thinks happened at Roswell and Area 51 and the alien bodies. And I had never heard this perspective or this theory or this thought or idea when it comes to Roswell. Never heard it. And it's like, hey man, I haven't read everything. I haven't been exposed to everything and every person within this community. And I found this to be insanely compelling. Now, with that said, when you look into Annie Jacobsen's background, it's pretty much she's an author, and she went to what school did she go to? Princeton. She went to Princeton and and all of her books, sort of the knock on her is that all of her books are about conspiracy theories, and she sort of goes in there and debunks them. And personally, I think that's insanely valuable. But there's also, I guess there's a fear and a worry that this is an intelligence community asset. And she has been shown and I'll show you an example of this, I think, where people, take something that she says and turns out that that's not totally true. There is another time where she did this thing, and I can see how that could get blown out of proportion and how that could be tied to somebody, and a lot of conspiracies can swirl around an author like this. Again, I'm not insanely familiar with her work. I'm not saying her word is God. I know there's a lot of people who are on the fence about her. There's a lot of people who love her work, and there's a lot of people who really don't like her work. As of right now, at least for this part of the conversation, she's got my attention. She's really got my attention here. And she's also got my respect just for being a television writer, because that's not an easy job to do. And that show is really good. It's got Wendell Pierce in it, which, if you know anything about the greatest show ever made, The Wire, he was one of the main actors in The Wire. And I got to work with him on an episode of The Odd Couple, which was a dream come true, that I got to work with Wendell Pierce. Anyway, it's just a weird connection that I just started watching that show before I started learning about Annie Jacobsen. Anyway, and that made me think of the one time I got to act with Wendell Pierce, which was freaking awesome. Okay, so let's listen to this part of the conversation, which is right here. It's the Area 51 section, and we're going to go through as far as we can, basically. This is the rest of my conversation for the day, because, again, I find this conversation just insanely fascinating. So let's listen to it, and I'll adjust the volume as we go.
In your book Surprise, Kill, Vanish.
Okay, that's really loud. Let me go ahead and
You write about the CIA.
There we go.
And the so-called president's third option. It turns out. Yep. So first of all, first
Thank
option
you very
being
much.
diplomacy.
Thank you very much. Fair use. Thank you so much for reminding me. I got such a killer audience, man. You guys are the fucking best. You guys are always looking out. I love you guys so goddamn much. Such a cool fucking audience. Oh, wait, that's the wrong button. There we go. All right, let's pop it up. Fair use. This is transformative work. We are educating the public on the videos that we are sharing. This is covered under fair use and allowable by law. Thank you, my audience. I love you guys so damn much. Okay, let's get to it.
And second option being war. So when diplomacy is inadequate and war is a terrible idea, we'll go to the third option. And this third option is about covert action, and it's about assassination. So how much of that does the CIA do?
That is open to debate. We know from the historical record that the CIA was heavily involved in assassination during the Cold War. That's non-negotiable, Even the names of the programs that were assigned to perform assassinations are fascinating and now declassified. Like Eisenhower's, for example, was the Health Alteration Committee.
Well,
right?
at least they have a sense of humor to this dark topic.
Then the more modern names are targeted killing, right? Executive action, targeted killing, right? I mean, drone striking is essentially assassination. And, people jump up and down and say that's
Wait,
not true. Well,
That's not the right part. There we go.
You mentioned you wrote a book on Area 51. For people
was
who don't know,
CIA
you've written a
assassinations.
lot about security, the
No, you're the
military,
best.
secrets, all of this kind of stuff. So Area 51 is one of the legendary centers of all of these kinds of topics. So high level first is, what is Area 51? As you understand it, as you've written about, the lore and the reality.
I think everybody wants to know about Area 51 because it's like this American enigma, It's like, to some people, it's the Shangri-La of, test bed aerospace programs, right? And to others, it's the place of captured aliens, right? And everything in between. I had the great fortune of interviewing 75 people who lived and worked at that base for extended periods of time. Mostly leading up to the 90s, because everything since then is classified, right? So things get declassified after decades, not everything, but some, and that allows you to piece together stories.
So you talked to a lot of people that work there. What can you describe as the history of technological development that went on there?
I mean, Area 51 is huge, by the way, and it's a top secret military facility inside a top secret military facility, inside the Nevada Test and Training Range, which is this massive,
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Just to cover my own ass. That's it. That's basically it. That's why I include the link to the whole video. So if you want to watch the video without this stuff, you can. But if somebody wants to claim fair use against my channel, it's got more than 10% of it is changed. We're pausing it every once in a while to talk over it and talk about it and educate people on the aspects of it. But this is interesting. 75 people that she interviewed who lived and worked at the base, and basically everything up until the 90s, because anything after the 90s was just classified. This is interesting how big the base is. And again, thank you, Complicit, for the donation here. Appreciate it. All right, let's continue.
secret facility, right? So you're just talking about layers, talk about peeling the onion in reverse. And it began as a place to test the U-2 spy plane. And literally the CIA set up shop there to build this plane away from the public eye. And then that led to another espionage platform called the A-12 Oxcart, which is, you know, anyone who's seen the X-Men movies knows about the SR-71. But and that's a two-seater, right? And before that, there was the A-12 Oxcart, and that was the CIA's stealth Mach 3 spy plane. You know, think about that in the early 1960s. It's astonishing.
Yeah,
and I interviewed
insane. That's insane. And to think that that kind of plane wasn't publicly known about until the late 80s. Late 80s. It was either 84 or 88 when the SR-71 was publicly introduced. That's awesome. Like, that is cool. But it also is a very good explanation as to what people are seeing, possibly seeing, or misidentifying. Because again, you can fly some of the best planes on the planet and not know that that plane existed at the time. If you had seen that, you would have been very confused. Flying the best thing in the world, as far as you know.
the pilots who flew it.
What did they say about it?
What
was it like?
God. I mean, you know, look, I describe in detail in Area 51, but also the amazing thing, Lex, about that was that, and, you know, I just look back on that with such fondness. This is like in 2009 when I was reporting that. And many of the guys who are in their 80s and 90s were World War II heroes, like serious World War II heroes, like Colonel Slater, who was the commander of Area 51. He flew the U-2 on the missions called the Black Cat missions over China in the early 1960s.
That is awesome.
To see about their Lop Nor nuclear facility, right? So all of these things tie in when you're reporting on military and intelligence programs. But that these guys had been World War II heroes and then were given this cushy job out at Area 51, you know? And it just came with all these perks. Colonel Slater told me this one perk I just loved so much. They all had a hankering for lobster one day, right? And here they are in the middle of the desert in Nevada. And they have these really fast planes, you know? And they literally called, like they arranged, they didn't take the ox cart out for that one, but they got some lobsters from Massachusetts, like delivered to them in like record time. They didn't even need to put them on ice, you know? And again, those are these details where you're like, thank God, at least for me, thank God I got these details. These guys are all past now.
Yeah. So there's a lot of incredible technological work going on there. So the legend,
she also
the lore,
at one
like you
point,
said, alien.
at one point during this interview, she had also mentioned, and we're not going to get to this part, but at one point she had mentioned something about DARPA and how DARPA has always been, since its creation, 20 years ahead of the technological curve. So imagine, like, if we could see today's top plane, to think that there's something 20 years ahead of that. That's ensuring, makes me feel fuzzy and warm inside, you know, but it's also awe-inspiring. Like, it's so inspiring to think that there's stuff 20 years ahead of what we're thinking and doing now, or even contemplating. Like, if I had come to you in the year 2000 and I had said, imagine a whole bunch of little RC helicopters, quadcopters that could be connected to each other by an invisible force field, essentially, that could coordinate them to make shapes in the sky or follow military personnel or, you know, use them as strategic weapons. People would have been like, you're nuts. Get the hell out of here. No. And that stuff existed at that moment, but nobody had any clue. It's cool. It's cool and it's scary.
Aliens. Mm-hmm. Were there ever aliens in Area 51, as you understand it?
Great question.
So I've interviewed hundreds of people
that worked there
in the well, not just at Area 51, but in all the different national security and military intelligence and intelligence programs. And I personally have no reason to believe that aliens have ever visited Earth. That's just me personally.
Visited Earth, period.
I have no information that causes me to conclude that's the case. Now, with that said, many...
Okay, and again, perspective of how many books she's written, how many people she's spoken to. If anybody had some secrets to spill, this would be the person to do it with. Because she's got the track record of doing it and handling it and caring for it in what seems like pretty respectful ways. And she has not come close to anything that would make her think that, yeah, that possibility is real. That should say something to a lot of people.
Many of the primary players in this present day, you know, there are aliens among us narrative, are in my phenomena book. I continue to communicate with a lot of these people. I'm talking about astrophysicists who fundamentally believe that there are aliens among us, right? So we beg to differ on that issue.
But for you, in terms of doing research on government agencies that do top secret military work, I mean, they would know, right? So you have interviewed a lot of people that have, at every layer of the onion, you don't see evidence or a reason to believe that there was ever aliens or UFOs captured from out of this world.
And
That is correct.
That is correct. Here's what I love about Lex Fridman's 2 back-to-back questions here is that he is leaving zero wiggle room for this question after the answer. It's either yes or no. And she's saying in both of these instances, no. Zero evidence. I am very confident. Very confident. And I, for one, trust that confidence. Again, if there's information that contradicts this that comes out later, I'm all for that. I'm all for that. But I don't think there will be.
Correct. And even perhaps more important, and perhaps this colors my thinking, but I am uniquely familiar with disinformation programs put forth by the CIA.
This is where it
or
gets
the
interesting.
agency, as it's called by insiders,
Agency.
right? And I've learned firsthand about these programs, or rather learned from firsthand participants in strategic deception campaigns that the CIA has engaged in, beginning with Area 51. You know,
Here's another interesting thing about this conversation, just putting this out there. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything. But when I was listening to this discussion, my girlfriend, her interest was quite piqued. She was asking questions about who this person was, and I was literally digging the information while we were both listening to the interview, and she was very intrigued by this. And it's a compelling interview. It's a really compelling interview. She's a great speaker. You could tell she's a pro. She's a pro. And I think that maybe that professionalism induces people into thinking she's a CIA asset, or she works for the CIA, or she's a disinformation agent herself. And these things at this point would not surprise me at all if she is. But the vibe I'm getting from her, she sounds like a professor. She sounds like someone who is insanely educated on the topic that she is discussing. It sounds like a professor's lecture when you speak to her, and it's so interesting. And she's just a great orator. She really, really is. If she has an audiobook, I'm going to buy it, especially if she's narrating it.
the idea that all these reports of this U-2 spy plane, this giant long-winged aircraft flying 70,000 feet up. People didn't think airplanes could fly that high. And it's, the sun shining off of it. It looked like a UFO, and all the reports coming in. And the CIA opened up a UFO disinformation campaign office headed by a guy named Toto.
Oh, God darn it. That was such a great part of the conversation. She's a long-wing U-2 plane so high in the sky that when people saw it, it looked like a shimmering UFO. And they got so many calls and so many people were talking about it that they opened up a UFO disinformation office. They've been doing this shit since the 40s, man. And this is their biggest this is the creation of this office has led to all of the issues that we have today. In 1940, it was in the special interests of the CIA and the government to lie to people and confuse people as much as possible because there was no internet. They only got one newspaper. There was maybe 2 TV channels on TV, if they even had a TV, and they got radio. That's how people got their news. Today, you cannot use that tactic. You just can't, because it spins so far out of control into such a deep, crazy conspiracy theory that people are incentivized or incensed enough, motivated enough to do real harm. And that's the biggest issue. And also, this stigmatization of UFOs within the intelligence community has created the massive national security issue that we have today. This office literally is the spawn of all of the issues we have, not only in society, partly because of this office, but internally at the national security defense level within the intelligence community. The start of this office spawned something that they never thought would be a problem, and it is. And because this stigmatization has been going on since the 40s, it's very hard to just hit the brakes and reverse that and go the other way. And that's why they had to open an AARO office. And that's why they had to get NASA to start talking about this. And that's why they had to do the NDAA and put all of these procedures in place so that way when a pilot engages a UAP, it has to be reported to the AARO office within 12 hours. There's no more messing around. There's no more making fun of the pilot that engaged the UAP. Those days are fucking over because that creates such a problem for national security. Because if you've got guys on the ground, people in planes, people on ships, people in submarines, not reporting the things that they're seeing because they're afraid of the blowback from reporting it, those days are over, or they're at least trying to reverse those days as much as they can. Whether it is taking full effect, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see because these procedures were literally just put in place within the last year. So let's see what comes out of it. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of decent data. Anyway, let's continue.
The aircraft flying 70,000 feet up. People didn't think airplanes could fly that high. And it's, the sun shining off of it. It looked like a UFO and all the reports coming in. And the CIA opened up a UFO disinformation campaign office headed by a guy named Toto Odorenko, specifically for this reason. Now, does that mean that every UFO sighting in the world has been a U2? No. But I come from that lane of thinking. And there are so many strategic deception campaigns. And as I look over the decades of how these same UFO stories, and again, this is just my opinion based on my reporting, this narrative that keeps reoccurring, it seems to me like a very large catch-all to keep the public's attention on that, not on that.
How many times have we said that on this show? The United States Navy would much rather have people look in the sky and scream, "Oh my God, alien," rather than, "Oh my God, brand new United States Navy fighter jet." Oh my God, that must be one of our new toys. They'd much rather have that. But in today's day and age, I don't think that works much for them anymore. This whole UFO cover-up thing, because again, it confuses their pilots, it confuses the people on the ground, and it confuses the intelligence coming in as well. And AARO has done a really good job at really defining what anomalous means. And they don't want reports unless it fits these characteristics and these guidelines, so to speak, or standards. So I think within the next 5 years, a lot of this stuff is going to really go away. It really is. And that's why you're seeing Jeremy Corbell freak out. That's why you're seeing George Knapp freak out. That's why you're seeing Gary Nolan freak out, because they know that the DOD is putting an end to this nonsense because they have to. They have to. And if they do, there goes all the lore, there go the books, there go the TV shows, there goes possibly funding for Gary Nolan. It all goes away instantly. And that's why they're so upset. They don't care about disclosure because they know there is no such thing. There is no such thing. It's not happening. Doesn't mean it's not out there. Doesn't mean intelligent life doesn't exist. But it's just not coming here. It's just not. There's no evidence for it. No one has provided it.
To you, like sexy stories like UFOs are going to be leveraged by the CIA for strategic deception.
100%. I mean, Google Paul Benowitz. I'm always amazed that Paul Benowitz's story is not more widely spoken of. And I think that's because there's like the sort of ufologists or the people who are like absolutely convinced that aliens are among us. And I use that term loosely, but you know what I mean. And then there's the quote unquote skeptics, and the skeptics tend to be sort of like self-righteous. And I would never want to be self-righteous. So I'm not a skeptic. I'm just, agnostic, I suppose. But Google Paul Benowitz, and you can learn the story of that man who thought he saw a UFO in the 70s, early 80s, and the Air Force, because the Air Force intelligence community works hand in glove with CIA a lot, and some of the other intelligence agencies. Of course, there's 17, not just the CIA. And they destroyed Paul Benowitz. They sent him to a mental institution by pulling a massive strategic deception campaign against him because they didn't want him to know about the technology that he was seeing at Kirkland Air Force Base.
All right, and now Rick Doty, damn it, I keep hitting that button. And now Rick Doty is, doing spaces every night with people on Twitter and hanging out at the Thomas Fessler show almost every night. The guy that she was just talking about that sent Paul Benowitz into a fucking mental institution. We've talked about Paul Benowitz. We've spoken about Mirage Men. We've spoken about Rick Doty. We've spoken to Rick Doty. We've asked him about these allegations to his face. And he just spins lies. He's just a bullshitter. The way that guy lies is incredible. And then you have these folks, and like I like Nicole Sakic a lot. She's a really nice woman. Personally, I think she's great. But her propagating and sort of fangirling over Rick Doty it sucks. Like, it's the worst, man. Like, this guy, he's the most useless person in ufology. The most useless. And nobody should be giving that guy a time of day. And you've got people like Thomas Fessler and other folks, on Twitter, just holding spaces with him. And he's the best thing since sliced bread, even though he basically had a hand in killing somebody. Drove them so crazy that they had to institutionalize this person. And this was a business owner. Like, this is not just some schmo. Like, this guy I believe he was also a veteran, if I'm not mistaken. He opened his own business. He had a family. He had a great life until he started seeing weird things over the Air Force base. And then the Air Force started filming those things. And then told the Air Force that he thinks he's got UFOs on his hand. And then the Air Force was like, yeah, you sure do, buddy. You sure do. And drove him fucking bananas. It's pretty nasty shit. What the CIA, the Air Force have done to people, have done to their own service men and women in the name of either just creating deception is insane. It's insane. It really is. And it's illegal, but again, repercussions for stuff like this, like, forget about it. It may never happen. I didn't mute myself, did I? Okay, let me see. Pretty sure. I don't know, those lights, when they turn red, it makes me nervous. All right, here we go. Let me turn that up just a little bit. All right, there we go.
And long-winged aircraft flying 70,000 feet up. People didn't think airplanes could fly that high. And it's, the sun shining off of it. It looked like a UFO, and all the reports coming in. And the CIA opened up a UFO disinformation campaign office headed by a guy named Toto Odorenko, specifically for this reason. Now, does that mean that every UFO sighting in the world has been a U2? No. But I come from that lane of thinking. And there are so many strategic deception campaigns. And as I look over the decades of how these same UFO stories, and again, this is just my opinion based on my reporting, this narrative that keeps reoccurring, it seems to me like a very large catch-all to keep the public's attention on that, not on that.
So to you,
100%. I mean, Google Paul Benowitz. I'm always amazed that Paul Benowitz's story is not more widely spoken of. And I think that's because there's like the sort of ufologists or the people who are like absolutely convinced that aliens are among us. And I use that term loosely, but you know what I mean. And then there's the quote unquote skeptics, and the skeptics tend to be sort of like self-righteous. And I would never want to be self-righteous. So I'm not a skeptic. I'm just, agnostic, I suppose. But Google Paul Benowitz, and you can learn the story of that man who thought he saw a UFO in the 70s, early 80s, and the Air Force, because the Air Force intelligence community works hand in glove with CIA a lot, and some of the other intelligence agencies. Of course, there's 17, not just the CIA. And they destroyed Paul Benowitz. They sent him to a mental institution by pulling a massive strategic deception campaign against him because they didn't want him to know about the technology that he was seeing at Kirkland Air Force Base. So look that up, and then you go, oh my God. And, to my eye, you can apply any of these other names, substitute in Paul Benowitz or any of the current individuals, who really become convinced of X, Y, or Z when in fact there's a strategic deception campaign going on.
yeah, there's a lot of incentive for the CIA and other intelligence agencies to get you to look the other way on whatever is happening. Plus, from a enemy perspective, whenever two nations are at war, to try to create hysteria in the other.
But then you have the Thomas theorem that becomes applicable there too. If men define situations as real, they are real in their consequences, right? So this idea of like UFOs and we're being lied to, it becomes real to many people. And then that creates a whole subset of problems to the point where...
Yeah, I think this is one of these moments where, she says skeptics are self-righteous. I mean, she is a skeptic. She doesn't believe any of this. And she doesn't believe any of this because she has the information that tells her that it's not accurate. And so that's exactly what a skeptic is. Is they've got the information. They're just going off the information that is available. They would not be skeptics if the information was different. They would be a convinced person, not even a believer. They'd just be convinced that it is true. You're not convinced. A skeptic is not convinced. So yeah, I think it's moments like that where people are like, are you fucking kidding me, Annie Jacobs? Come on. But whatever. I'd let stuff like that slide. It doesn't really bother me that much. I think, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Where things are spiraling out of control and there is no center anymore, right? So a lot of people that are briefed on programs maybe aren't even aware of their position within a greater campaign. Or I'm wrong and there are aliens among us.
Right. So, I appreciate the possibility of acknowledging that you might be wrong. From everything you know about the U.S. government, if there was an alien spacecraft, what do you think would happen? Would they be able to hold on to those secrets for, decades? Would they want to hold on to those secrets? What would they do? What's your sense?
I can't imagine that kind of exciting situation not becoming public information, right? And the counter to that is this, right? This is a very strong argument for why this is a big strategic deception campaign, right? Think about the Defense Department and think about how jealously they guard its airspace, right? I mean, you had a Chinese balloon flying over and the whole world went crazy, right? It was front page news. So the fact that the one element or a couple people in the Defense Department have made this statement, we've lost control of our airspace over this UFO, alleged UFO craft that they can't explain. I don't buy that at all. Zero.
Of course, it's possible that, it is alien spacecraft, if it is that, and they operate under a very different set of technological capabilities in theory.
In my interviews with Jacques Vallée, who is the kind of grandfather of all ufology, and he's such an interesting person and has such a really unique origin story about how he came into all of this. And he's such a scientist, right? And he is profoundly dedicated to this issue and stands completely on the opposite end of the spectrum from me and knows a lot more and has studied this for decades more. But what he said to me is the most interesting thing, which is that it's not a military problem, it's an intelligence problem. Because Jacques believes that this is some kind of intelligence, right? Which really...
This is also the same Jacques Vallée that lied to people, okay, about in his latest book, Trinity, where they were lying, and they knew they were lying about the witnesses from that story. And that was laid out really beautifully by, again, Dean Johnson. Go check him out on Twitter. He breaks down beautifully about, how Jacques Vallée is an unreliable narrator now, as far as I'm concerned. He knows the book is wrong, and yet he doubled down and stuck with it. Not shocking. That's what most of them do. And this is a great comment that I just got on Twitter. And I love comments like this because, the more you know. He goes, "Hey, man, this is kind of a dick comment, and I hate that, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Infer when you say something, but you're trying to get someone else to think of something else. You are implying," and he's right here, "when you are listening to the person who is implying something and you figure out what they mean, you are inferring. So you don't infer something when you speak, you infer when you listen. You've been using the two terms interchangeably over the past several weeks." And again, it's such a dick comment because your show is just great. I love it to death, but for what it's worth, the more you know. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. No, I don't mind comments like that at all, because I can go, yeah, that's right. I am interchanging those things. You are correct. They are implying, not inferring. So thank you. And yeah, I will try to fix that. Because I think I've been saying it wrong. I've just been saying it wrong. So thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Better English, says Jeremy Reese. Oh, funny. Okay, here we go.
The closest I can do to wrapping my head around that takes me to consciousness, right? The idea of what is consciousness.
Uh-oh.
And I think that's where it becomes very interesting. I think the government is hiding bodies and crafts is very Paul Benowitz. Read it. Google it, look into it, right?
Yeah. I think this kind of flying saucer thing is a trivialization of what kind of, if there's alien civilizations out there.
Trivialization. That's a great word. Trivialization. I agree with you.
I tend to believe that there's like a very large number of alien civilizations out there. And I believe we would have trouble.
He not only believes it, he improved and sort of updated the Drake equation for today's terms in terms of math. And yet he's right. Mathematically, there are an infinite number of alien intelligent species out there. That is for sure. That is a mathematical fact. Now, what is the mathematical probability of them visiting here all the time without us noticing? That number's a lot. Infinitely smaller. Infinitely smaller.
Trouble comprehending what that even looks like were they to visit. I tend to believe they are already here or have visited and we're too dumb to understand what that even means.
This is interesting.
And they certainly would.
That is a cool thought. Now, we've sort of touched on this where, sort of theorizing of the idea, well, if there is a phenomenon, if it is real and we have observed it, we haven't captured it, we haven't dissected it, we haven't reverse engineered it, but we've observed it. That observation could be the tip of the iceberg, literally the snowflake on top of a mountainous unfathomably huge iceberg of what it is. And all we're getting to see is a snowflake aspect of it. And our only comprehension of it is it looked like it did a right-hand turn and then shot up into space. It was crazy. That's possible. That's possible. It's something he personally believes. I don't agree with him. But let's see where the data goes, right?
It would not appear as flying objects that defy gravity for brief moments of time on low resolution video.
Right. You know, he believes that if they are here, we're too stupid to understand what that even looks like. Or like Carl Sagan beautifully described dimensions, 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimension, and what would it look like if a 3rd dimension object came into 2-dimension land, you know, and it's beautifully explained in how the people of 2-dimension land would just not be able to comprehend 3 dimensions. They just would not understand it. And what would that look like from their perspective? So this idea that, yeah, maybe they are here. Maybe we just cannot comprehend it whatsoever. Possible. But he does not believe that they're coming here in ships that do amazing maneuvers, you know, kidnap cow asses and lips, you know, that disappear. He doesn't think that's them either. So again, there's nuance here. There's room for thought and philosophical debate, and there's a room for all sorts of things, but we still need evidence for all of this stuff. We still need calculable things.
I tend to have humility about all this kind of stuff, but I think radical humility is required to even like open your eyes to what an alien intelligence would actually look like. And to me, it's beyond military applications. It's like the basic human question of like, what is even this thing? Like you mentioned, consciousness that's going on. Like, where's this come from? Why is it so powerful? Is it unique in the universe? I tend to believe not. Of course, I hang out a bunch with other folks like Elon who believe we are alone. But I think that belief, just like you said, has power because it actually manifests itself in reality. So if you believe that we're alone in this universe, that's a great motivator to build rockets and become multiplanetary and save ourselves, especially in the case of nuclear war. Because otherwise, whatever this special sauce, this flame of consciousness will go out if we destroy ourselves on this earth. And for people like Elon, it's too high of a probability that we destroy ourselves on earth, not to try to become multiplanetary. In your book on Area 51, you propose an explanation that I think some people have criticized at the very end.
This is great.
That this might have been a disinformation campaign from, I guess, Stalin. That the Roswell incident was a remotely piloted plane with a, quote, grotesque child-sized aviator. Just looking back at all that now, years later, what's the probability that it's true? What's the probability it's not?
So, you know, I've never revealed who that source is.
Yes.
Did you know that?
I know.
Want me to tell you?
What the source?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's the source?
So, before I say anything on that, let me speak to the question that you asked, right? So, you asked me, what's the probability that is still standing as an idea 12, 13, 14 years later, right? So I continued to work with that source for years afterwards. We talked about this. Look, I mean, his whole family knew it was him. And I knew his family because I was an integral part of, you know, I was at his house, met all his kids, grandkids. And
we should say the source is the main expert advisor behind the story. That it was, maybe you can explain what the story is that you report in the book, that it was a disinformation campaign created by Stalin to cause mass hysteria in the United States.
Yes.
The very kind that we've been speaking about with the CIA and so on.
Yes, predicated on the narrative of the War of the Worlds, right? And the War of the Worlds, when it was a radio program in the United States, made people go crazy. Oh my God, we're being invaded by aliens. Well, the government was always interested in this story, and Joseph Stalin was too. We know that from declassified documents, right? And so the source told me that the reason for this program and that the real Roswell crash remains were, in fact, it was a Black propaganda hoax infiltrated, or rather predicated at this idea that you were going to overwhelm America's early warning air defense system, cause mayhem, and maybe be able to attack the United States. That was the plan. And Stalin was also messing with the United States, messing with Truman, who sort of, turned his back on him, right, at Potsdam. And so...
Okay, so the damn it, I keep doing that, and I hate it. I keep hitting this, oh gosh, I hope it doesn't go too far off the conversation here. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so Roswell incident.
In your book on Area 51,
I'm just going.
I know that it will cause mass.
Yeah, of course, once it was determined that this was a hoax and that once in the United States messing with Truman, who sort of, turned his back on him, right, at Potsdam.
Okay, so Potsdam. That's the one thing I wanted to talk about here real quick. So, I had it pulled up. I don't know where it went. Let me see. Potsdam, Stalin, and Truman. So this was a conference after World War II in 1945, where they were basically, for 2 weeks, the world leaders, Stalin, Churchill, and President Franklin D. Roosevelt got together and decided to negotiate the terms after end of World War II. And I guess in these negotiations, they kind of screwed Russia, at least from the Russian perspective, from Stalin's perspective. That's what he felt. And of course, this is just so weird because Stalin himself killed more people than Adolf Hitler, which is wild, and like a lot more people. So yeah, there's the fact that they're even sitting there at a negotiating table with him is amazing. So yeah, that's just something that I wanted to look up that she was referencing there. And yes, to answer your question, in 1945, 1947, can things be remotely piloted from Russia? Yeah, they could. They could. United States did it as well. And so, yeah, that's not a crazy technology in 1947. That was something that they were doing. And so the idea that the whole theory here is that Stalin gets a plane that is, okay, cool. Yeah. Congress or Stalin gets a plane, puts purposefully deformed figures, child-sized figures in these planes, crashes them on purpose. I think the target missed. I don't think they meant to crash in Roswell, New Mexico. I really don't. I think they was probably meant to crash in a much bigger, much metropolitan area. But the idea of it is it crashes in an area, a whole bunch of people see it, people freak out, and then before you know it, their entire communication system is completely flooded with people freaking out about aliens crash landing and attacking the United States. And it had happened. There was a historical precedent for it with the War of the Worlds radio presentation by Orson Welles. After that radio presentation, people thought it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare for the United States military and communications. Orson Welles got into a lot of trouble for it, for doing a reading of War of the Worlds. It was crazy. And so the Russians knew about that. They knew about our obsession with this topic. And yeah, they sent over a plane filled with a bunch of dead bodies that they configured to look like aliens or alien species. And then when the thing lands or crashes in Roswell and some rancher comes across it, boom, that's how the story comes out. And then if you think that there was a lid being tried to be put on that story by the CIA or the Air Force. No, that's exactly the story they wanted out there because they didn't want the public to know what the Russians were doing to us in our own country. Like, yeah, they'd much rather have people think that it's aliens than the Russians, without a doubt. And so this story is wild because the person who knows about this, right, is her source, and she's going to reveal the source here, and we'll get into her timeline with this source here in a second. And I think, again, like, this is the reason, like, things like this where either she forgot or whatever, it's just a reason for people to add conspiracy to what she's saying, as opposed to being like, oh, this just makes sense. But we'll get to that in a second.
And so this idea was, and the reason that the source is important, and unlike, a lot of people, I saw this, I saw that, I learned that, was according to the source, once it was determined that this was a hoax and that Stalin was able to get a craft over the United States and it crashed, and it had, people inside of it. They were people that were sort of deformed and meant surgically altered to look like aliens. The United States government decided that it needed to know what on earth that was all about, and if it was possible for us to have the same program. This according to the source, right? And so it sounds preposterous. And if it was just someone saying, you might say, well, it's ridiculous, tell me, and get them onto another subject. But the difference is this source, who is very well placed and friends with all of the other 75 people, told me this as a confession, right? A real tearful confession, because what he said is he was involved in the American program to do the same thing. And people died because there were human experiments that went on. And I write about this in the last 12 pages of Area 51. It was an explosive, revelation. And I felt very confident in writing this because the source wanted it written. Why? Because he said, I'm dedicated to my country. I know about being committed to national security, and this kind of thing must never happen. And if you give people too much power, they will take advantage of it. And he wanted it on the record. And his wife of 60 years did not know until after the book published, nor did his children, okay? So after the book published, I was called to his house and sat there with his family.
At first, when she's telling this story, I thought she was talking about Jesse Marcel. I thought she was talking about Jesse Marcel and how Jesse Marcel sold this story of aliens and this otherworldly beings to his family because he had to, because that was his job to make sure that that's the information that got leaked out to the public. There's a $10 donation here from I'm Not Here, This Isn't Happening. He says, the War of the Worlds hysteria is a myth. Look up Emily Wild Reads. It was anti-radio hype, wildly debunked. Makes me cautious. That's interesting. I have not heard that it was a myth. But, I mean, if you look at the historical records, and look, I'll go check it out because I know Emily does great work. Orson Welles himself got in trouble for that. That for sure, I know. I know that it was something that he had to answer to the press for. And whether the hysteria was blown out of proportion, that could be totally true. That might be for sure true. But I'll go check out that episode. But I know for sure there was enough hysteria to a point where he got in trouble for it, and they were never allowed to do anything like that again on radio without heavy warnings and prerequisites, throughout the program to make sure that the audience is very well aware of what's happening. So yeah. I'll go check it out. I did not know that. But thank you for telling me. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, is Ak here? Where's he? Is he here? Boy, oh boy, would we love to talk to him.
And they said, tell us this isn't true. And he said it is true, right? Now that source is Al O'Donnell, who is the nuclear weapons engineer who armed, wired, and fired 186 nuclear weapons.
186 nuclear weapons. Now, I wonder if any of those ones that he wired and fired actually killed people. I have a feeling the answer is yes on that one. And yeah, that's got to be something pretty crazy to reveal to your wife. She doesn't even know. That's pretty wild. That is a wild, wild story. So now when you look up Alfred O'Donnell, more specifically, the thing that I found interesting is she said that this was the first time in an interview. What's going on here? Let me mute that. She said this was the first time ever in an interview that she had revealed who this source was. But in April 14th of 2015, she tweeted out this picture. Alfred, quote, the Triggerman O'Donnell, 1922 to 2015, has died. He armed, wired, and fired 186 nukes, profiled in Area 51. Rest in peace, Al. So what she said at the top wasn't entirely accurate. It's not the first time she revealed who this person was. She revealed who he was 9 years ago when he passed away in April of 2015. And so, yeah, you know, again, like I think it's moments like that where she's like, oh shit, I totally forgot that I posted that. I don't think it was something intentional or something, you know, you know, that she said or did in bad faith. I think she just probably made a mistake. She forgot that she posted this. So, you know, there was that. And that was the, you know, one of the things I noticed there. But again, like, I think it's moments like that where people will attach things to her that don't necessarily fit. But I personally, I think that this idea is very plausible. Some people were saying that it's not, that technology is not possible in 1947. I would say, again, I'm going to disagree. I think that remote control piloting things halfway across the world is not that wild of an idea, especially in the time of high altitude planes. And yeah, I just, again, like they were basically flying the SR-71 in the early 60s, you know, like they were developing and working on that plane really early on in the process. And of course, yeah, there's 40 years of development past that. But still, I'm not going to put it out of the realm of possibility. And maybe even it's remote controlled to a certain point, or there's a way for it to control itself past a certain distance. And maybe that's why it crashed in Roswell. I have a feeling, and again, I'm going to dive into this book, but I have a feeling that the target was not Roswell, New Mexico. That's my feeling. And because of those limitations, it landed in Roswell, New Mexico, as opposed to Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, you know, one of the three, Cleveland, Detroit, like one of those major cities in the United States at that point. But yeah, I understand your trepidation for sure. I get it. But what's more believable? Remote control airplanes in 1947 or alien craft in 1947? Which one's more probable? Which one's more mathematically likely? I think that's my point. I don't think Russia had a global remote control planes in 1947. That's a stretch. Again, you know, I'm going to go with the lady who interviewed over hundreds of people that belong to these programs and interviewed 75 people that lived and worked at Area 51. I don't believe her, but I'm going to take her research and her reputation and her professionalism into account when I say, okay, what's more likely? You know, and again, like, it's like, what is more likely? Remote control planes or alien craft visiting and stealing cow asses? Which one's more likely? You know, like, I wonder. But anyway, you guys, that is the show for today. Oh man, we really pissed off some skeptic or some believers today. They are not happy. I guess it must be the schedule. I guess they're really pissed off that we have a schedule now. I don't know what it is, but they are not happy, you guys. Personally, I don't care. I think it's funny. Want to say thank you to Arden Paranormal, who was a boss ass mod today. Thank you so much, Arden, for being here and helping me with all of the madness at the top of the show. I really appreciate it. I cannot thank you enough. Complizzier, thank you so damn much for all the donations today. You are a champion. Archangel Reese, Mr. Reckless Ryan, Wise Monkey, Jason Brown, I'm Not Here, This Isn't Happening, Steve Long, Skinny Bob, Smith, Fifi Barboa, Swick McLeod, all of you guys, thank you so damn much for being here. Seriously, this show is nothing without you guys, and it grows every week. We're growing. The crowds are getting bigger, and that's fun. That's fun to see. The support's growing, which is fun to see. We do have this show will be on podcast tomorrow on Spotify. So link is in the description below if you want to go listen to the show in the office or on the road. You can do that. Let's see. What else? What else am I forgetting here? Am I forgetting anything else? We're going to be back on Friday, you guys. I'm not sure what we'll be talking about then. But again, I'm sure there'll be news from between now and then. Please, of course, as always, don't forget to smack that like button. The share button is massive. If you can't support the show financially, totally cool. That share button is big. Hit that one. Share it with your friends. If you want folks to sort of get a rational viewpoint of what's going on with UFOs, UAPs, and things that are paranormal, this is a great show for them to sort of to get a different perspective on all of that stuff. Anyway. So share if you can. Ring the bell. That way you're notified anytime there's crazy news that we go breaking live on, which could happen between Monday and Friday when we normally do our show from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And yeah. Let's see here. What else? Is there anything else? There is. If you really, really love this show, if you listened this far and you've liked, you subscribed, you shared, you ring the bell, you're like, Lou, what else can I do? Become a Patreon member. Link is in the description below, or become a YouTube member. I have a feeling I'm still toying around with the idea of releasing all of the old UCR episodes. If I do it, I think it's going to be through a YouTube membership because I can unlock videos weekly through YouTube. And then if you have access, if you are a member of the YouTube channel, you'll get access to those old UCR episodes. I know that's kind of a paywall. But I don't know how. I think we can go over older shows, big interviews, big moments in UCR here on Lue Reviews. But to do all 380 something episodes, review them on this, I think would be a lot. It's too much. But yeah, I don't know. Again, still toying around with that idea, still sort of playing with it, but we're going to come up to something here within the next week or two, hopefully. I just saw what did we get here? Oh, Ijamot, thank you so much for the $3 donation. Appreciate it with the super sticker. Love it. Thank you so much, man. All right, you guys, that is the show again. Thank you. I can't thank you enough for being here. I'll say it a billion times. But once again, thank you for embarking on this journey of discovery together. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and thank you so much for helping raise the bar here on another episode of Lue Reviews. Enjoy the rest of your week, you guys. I'll see you soon. Peace out. Senator McDonald, thank you for being here from down under. Thank you. Arden, again, you're the best. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. Later, Wise Monkey. Later, Jason Brown. Wild Fools, thank you. Thor Panko, thank you. Simon Fly, love you to death. Have a great week, y'all. Peace out.